Our next guest is Martin
Okay,
Peterson.
Martin. Hi. Bye.
Martin is a hypnosis instructor, a stage hypnotist, an instructor for the Dave Ellman Hypnosis Institute, and teaches the best practices of Dave Ellman, along with a lot of other courses. And my gosh, where did we meet? Did we meet at NGH or did we meet at Hypnothoughts? I can't remember.
I think actually the first time we actually spoke in person was at the Hypnothoughts.
Okay.
We did meet once in NGH, but that's really long time ago. So a lot of
back when we
happened.
were both children.
Yeah.
Anyway, Martin is an extremely talented hypnotist and an instructor. And so welcome, Martin. And what are we talking about?
Well, I thought about going back to the last Hypnothoughts. I did a topic on script killing hypnosis. And half of the audience was provoked by it. And the other half went like, yeah, let's talk about that. So I thought maybe if we could do, this segment about script killing hypnosis and the whole idea about that, the philosophy of going back to the real core of what is hypnosis really.
Sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, that could be fun, couldn't it? Actually, the story was I asked Scott Sandon about this topic, and he said, yeah, we could do that on the Friday, or was it Thursday? No, Friday actually. One of the first workshops at Hypnothoughts. And the room they got me was the room that Igor Lidahovsky was supposed to be in a couple of hours later, and that's like the biggest ballroom ever with like 100 seats or something like that. And I went oh, they're playing a trick on me because there's no way I can gather that many people. So I was a little bit pissed off actually, and went to set up my gear. It was like 5 minutes just before I had to be live, and stood with my back to the audience, and there was like 3 people sitting there. And I was kind of like just walking around talking to myself like, oh, Scott, I'm gonna beat you down later for this. This is like knocking out my self-esteem on this topic. And exactly on time, I turned around and every seat was full. And that was kind of like surprising. So, and I went like, okay, the past 5 minutes, I kind of erased my memory, didn't know exactly what to do. And it was like, so who think they can do change in 2 minutes? And people went like, what kind of script are you using? I said, nothing. I'm not going to use anything but what the subject is telling me, no words added but that. And people went like, yeah, we want to see this. And I went, let's do it then. And did a couple of demos on that, and people were astonished of how far can you get into a conversation with nothing but the words that your client is telling you. And I think this is the main idea of doing real script-free hypnosis. Not that there's anything wrong with scripts, but if you get stuck with a script in a session, there's nothing in that script that could help your client anyway. It's not personal. It's not them. It's not really about the issue, because everybody knows that any issue, even though we have a label on it, it's multi-layered. It's so many emotions. It's so many thoughts. It's so many traumas. It's so many ideas. So there's no way a single term or a single product or skill can change that unless we have a conversation. And it's not only based on, the conversational hypnosis part, but it's based on conversation, because it's not what we think it is. And that's the whole problem about, the medical industry or doctors. Let's put some diagnoses out there. Diagnoses are good so we can label people and put them in boxes. But who did ever really talk with the client about not what they think is wrong with them, but what they want to become? And I think that's a different angle instead of talking about the problems. So I changed my procedure of how to deal with clients totally. Instead of asking about, so why are you here? It would be something like, so how do you want to feel like when you actually exit my office? And people will go like, oh, that's a weird question. I said, well, it might be weird because usually you want to talk about your problems, but I want to know how you want to feel when you leave, and leave some gap there because it might be even better than that. And people go like, is that possible? Well, already we changed the mind just a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the whole, basic idea about this. So what I did was just change the whole, concept on hypnosis of how to deal with pre-talks, how to talk with people, and the results went, rocket high right after. How I got the feedback, how people got back to me on the change they felt, they experienced. Even relatives and partners went back to me like, so what did you do? Because he or she is totally changed. And sometimes even if you ask the client, they went like, I don't know if anything really changed, but I feel really good because the past is the past and they're living in the now. And I feel that's a real big change. And I do think maybe one of the most interesting episodes or situations I've been in that really founded this idea was some years back at Hypnothoughts. I was doing like a co-event with Scott Sandland, and one of the students in there was a military guy called Danny. And Danny's a personal friend of me today, so he knows I'm sharing his story once in a while. But he had like a post-traumatic stress disorder, we can, take that out. The problem was he wanted everybody to shut off the phones because if a phone was ringing during sessions or teachings, he would panic. He would be afraid of who knows. The anxiety level would, go sky high immediately, and he was really uncomfortable if a phone was ringing. And I asked him, so did you get any help on this matter? And he went like, yeah, psychologist, psychotherapist, hypnotist, and the list was so long, right? And I said, well, but still, do you really want to change this? Then let's do something tomorrow because I feel like you're ready tomorrow. And that was a post suggestion anyway. So when he got back the day after, he said, well, I don't think you can do anything. And I said, no, that's right. I can't do anything, but you can do it. So since you're here, let's do it, right? And in 16 minutes, I even got this on video, and I use this as one of the lessons to my students. In 16 minutes, we got totally rid of his trauma that went 7 years back, being afraid of killing people, being dead himself, so many layers of really feeling so afraid of just being him, right? Gone in 16 minutes. And that includes pre-talk, induction, hypnosis, tools, whatever you put in there. I did just a regular trauma collapse, and he was totally changed from that. And when I saw him this summer again, he was like, there's something about this session. My wife is really mad at you. And I went like, oh, not good. I said, so what's the problem? He said, well, if a phone rings, I don't even want to answer it. I don't give a damn. I'm like, okay, I get it now. So it's totally gone. And the only thing I did actually was just mirroring things back to him and getting him to lead me into the layers of the actual problem, knowing that instead of being afraid or having triggers making him feel afraid, I got the resources. And they just popped out there with me just repeating everything he said. I just repeated that back to him, and he just opened up like a flower, right? Yeah. And that is really, really interesting because there's no script I ever read that could do anything like that in 16 minutes anyway. And
it beats the heck out of the
doesn't it?
Cell phones don't make you antsy script. Yeah,
exactly.
I've been looking for that one.
Exactly. And even when you and I were together in Denmark in March, last year, our friend Carl, I did a demo of this on him also. And we started to play with that. I'm not sure if you were there, actually. Maybe it was one of the first days. I don't
remember being there for that.
Okay. But Carl, anyway, he did the same thing. Like, well, you can play around with me. I'm not going to give in, Carl. And within a few minutes, we're doing hardcore session. And again, 15, 16 minutes, he was done. and it changed him completely, and he didn't know what to expect. He tried to be ahead of the session because that's how calm works, but still I got him trapped into actually just being him, and expressing what's on his mind, what kind of feeling that was, and just deal with it, finding the resources.
Uh-huh.
So that's just really interesting, I think, because I've known,
Yeah.
I have so many colleagues that spends hours on hours, exchanging scripts and stuff like that, and I don't really get it. I was stuck with that for 10 years, and seeing the difference right now, I'm pretty disappointed in myself that I didn't change a little bit before, because it's how you use scripts. I love scripts because there's some words in there, there's some good expressions, some analogies, metaphors, stuff like that, and that's awesome. But you can never script a session beforehand. I truly believe that. And some people are scared of just having a regular conversation, but you get the biggest results in regular conversations, talking with your neighbor, talking with that old school friend, whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I guess that's one of the fears of the brand new hypnotists, and I know I had it because I saw these older hypnotists, guys that were like about my age now, and I saw them, and they would just open their mouth, and this hypnotic voice would come out, and they could. I'm going to deepen somebody, and then you take a deep breath, and deepening language comes out of their thing, or this. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to do that. And so a script was nice to fall back on when I was a youngster, but as you say, not the way to go.
Exactly. And also, one of the major things I do usually deal with students is, I do tell them this, but half would go study scripts for quite a while, right? Because they feel confident doing that, and it's kind of like, maybe that's the backup, right? But they do tell me after a while, when they do change the way they work, that the real gain of knowledge and the real gain of experience comes in the moment where you actually let go of the school book or whatever handout you have and just sit there with your client. That's the real change. And
yeah, kind of hard to calibrate your client when you're reading the script, right?
True. Or if you go too structured on how to deal with pre-talks, how to deal with the actual induction, or ask questions like, so would you be ready now for the actual hypnosis part? That freaks most clients out anyway. So the way I work is, I actually have kind of like, I feel it's a cool setup. Before I have my client, I will send them out a video of me doing like a 7 minute pre-talk about, don't drink too much coffee, stuff like that. And in the background, I have my hypnotic chair. I have like a recliner chair that really goes far back, and it's a wide one, so they can really sit comfortable in it. And every time I do anything that has to do with the trance, hypnosis, being comfortable, relaxed, easy, stuff like that, I point at it. So I do in all the body language patterns already, and I'm programming them to want to sit in that chair. So when they enter my office, it's kind of like, instead of leading them to the chair, I'm pulling them to my table and just sit down like a friendly chat, and they will start looking at the chair like, yeah, that's the one. And I'll go, true, that's the one. That's where the magic happens, And so, well, before we do anything that has to do with hypnosis, let's go sit down in that chair and be comfortable. And we go sit down. I said, well, just for the fun, close your eyes and tell me about a place where you feel safe and secure right now. And they will go bring something up from childhood, whatever, and bring that up. And I will have them explain that a little bit to me. And within a couple of minutes, we have a deeper level of trance that you can do in 25 minutes from an old classic induction that might even not even bring you there, because there's too many forcing or telling them to do. But in this matter, with this kind of induction, people feel relaxed, comfortable. All the senses are open because they know the place. And I bring some mind matching into it, something like, so what do you realize right now that makes you feel even more comfortable that you haven't recognized before? And people go, oh, there's the trees. I said, yeah, that's right, the trees. And they feel like I'm right there beside them. And the only thing I know is there's some light, maybe the sun, there's the trees, and they feel comfortable. That's the only thing I need. And they go really deep in a way that not too deep, so they fall asleep or the body kind of just, jumps out of the session, but deep enough for them to have a deep unconscious conversation with me. So I won't have to deal with the logic and analytical mind, but just go straight to the topic, the actual topic, not what I think it's the topic, but the actual topic of the matter, right? And I love that.
That's right.
I love that. So that's really how I deal with that. And that's how you can get to that, no script hypnosis, because from then, when they're there, it's pretty easy. It's just about asking the questions and not analyzing, not jump to any conclusions. It's all about, if I don't understand it, sometimes it's okay, because I couldn't possibly understand it anyway. But if it doesn't make sense in the matter why they're there, I would go, well, could you please explain that a little bit more, so I would get the idea. And they go, one level deeper, and they're right there. That's the secret. And reframing that to a resource, people, they blossom immediately. So
excellent.
That's really how I do it, and it's fun.
Yes.
But
hey, Martin, you mentioned that with that large group that you were presenting to, you said some were on board, right, let's do this. And then the others, you said, how did you put it? Did you say they were challenged, or they were
I think they were provoked a bit.
That's
because it's, tell me what people don't get sometimes, because you know me, I don't keep quiet very often. And if there's something I don't understand, I will ask the question. And I think that gains to everyone's knowledge. And some people only have one angle to life. I want to have multiple angles to life, because everything I do, I want to be able to explain it. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to do it. And I want to feel it, and I want to see, a good product from whatever action I do. And so people who feel provoked, having a chat with them afterwards would be something like, the reason why they felt provoked by it was because they structured everything from the base of what I said is unnecessary. Everything they've been doing so far is based on something I said, well, why would you even want to do that? Because you could do so much better by not doing it. And I do understand that's a big, it's provoking people. It's challenging them so much that they feel like, hey, everything I thought and believed in, it's gone now because that dude says something different. And so either I'm a genius, or maybe I'm just an idiot, right? So what I want to prove the point that whatever they know so far is good. But what if you just asked that question out of context? What if you just pushed your client a little bit further and actually listened to whatever they had to tell you, and then build the next question on top of that? That makes such a big difference. So I get that often, that people either come see me because they're provoked, or they come back because they're pretty excited about what I do.
Looks like we got a question over here. Let's see. This sounds a bit similar to doing an affect bridge regression to a comfortable place and turning it into some. I'm not sure if this. I think maybe this might be an old question.
I think I know what Philippe is asking.
You do? Okay. All right. Please
because,
go ahead.
What I call that type of induction is the place of comfort. And in NLP and some other hypnotic terms, you have different kinds of terms for this, but there's still a change to it, because instead of building too much up, or even if we have some Igorians out there, people who follow Igor Lidohovsky, he has something called like the sacred place or the sanctuary. It's kind of like the same place, but what I really wanted to build upon is a place they do know, and they do know how to describe to me as a place they feel comfortable. And where people usually get this wrong is what you think is comfortable might not be comfortable for another person. What you feel is really comfortable is kind of like just a dream to some people. So comfortable to me would be a neutral place, a place where they don't feel challenged by anything, and where they can have just like a random thought without any pressure, with just, in just a couple of seconds. That would be a neutral place. That would be the place of comfort. And everything on top of that would be what I put there. So that would only be feeling comfortable. That would only be whatever I add to that, and then have them change into that. Because when we open up the senses, like the kinesthetic, the auditory, the olfactory, the visual, they actually go straight into hypnosis. If you put an EEG measurement device on their heads, they will go down to somewhere between 7 and 10 hertz immediately doing this. And that's a proper level of doing whatever kind of hypnosis you want to do, because they can still answer, they can still be cooperative with the body and their mind, and they're not so deep that you will get them to snore in just 30 seconds and you have to wake them up a little bit. So because they're comfortable, they go there immediately. What I usually do, just to really get the idea out there, is the big question: when are you hypnotized and when are you not? Is trance being hypnotized? Is meditation? All of that, all those terms is still the same thing. You're in trance, you're kind of hypnotized, whatever kind of name you put there, it's still the same thing, isn't it? So what I usually do, I go to my whiteboard and I draw random symbols, or maybe just whatever, just like a big mush of different colors. And I go to people, so are you hypnotized right now? And people go, no, not at all. No, not at all. So, well, if you really look at this on this board, within a couple of seconds, you will see maybe letters, maybe numbers, maybe even a symbol that makes a big difference to you that maybe other people won't see because you see it. So raise your hand when you do see it. And within 3-5 seconds, every people raise their hand saying, well, I do see something. And I pick out everyone, say, what do you see? And they go, well, I see like a triangular thing. Some people go, I see a dog, I see a name, stuff like that, right? And the interesting part is, so were you hypnotized? And they would go, no. I said, you were, because how could you possibly go into imagination this fast and see something that is not really there? Your mind created this because of an emotion, because of something you saw, and everything else was just created by your unconscious mind. And through tests from people and scientists who really knows this stuff, you would be around 8 hertz to get this inspiration to actually put something on the board that isn't really there. So yes, you were hypnotized within 10 seconds. Let's say it's 10 seconds. So why should we spend 20 minutes getting our clients into the same kind of condition when you can cut the bullshit and jump the unnecessary pre-talk, at least if you talk about things that is unnecessary, and just go straight to the topic? That would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
Well, the important thing that I think we would definitely agree on is getting the work done, getting the result.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not in favor of spending any extra time,
no,
any extra time to get the result. If I can do it quicker, then so I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I'm so glad, Martin, that this took this turn, because this form of hypnosis, most of the people that I've interviewed during the European leg have all been more in the Elman mold, as far as their style, or that sort of thing. And you're the only one that's been here in this style. So I'm very glad that this happened this way, because this is something that we weren't discussing before. So that's good.
Yeah, well, that's what I usually see. Getting, you and I travel the world quite a lot, and we've been to a lot of conferences and all that stuff. And a lot of people is either caught up in Elman style, Omni, or old, Kyrgyz, or whatever, whoever, really. Milton, very narrowed down Milton stuff. But again, if you just pick out the best stuff from all of it and have a regular conversation, that's really it. And that's where I see the biggest change. A question to you could actually be, have you ever changed anyone's perspective on life within a couple of minutes, having just a regular conversation without even thinking therapy? I'm pretty sure you had that already, right?
With or without a weapon?
With just your tool of speech.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? That where you don't feel pressure to think a new model for this person, but just be there and listen and ask a question, they will change the mindset immediately, because they haven't thought about that. Because the reason why they haven't done it themselves already is because they're stuck in a mindset. But that question you popped up right there in the middle of it after 90 seconds of talking with them made them go, I haven't thought about that, but that's a good idea. And then they have new ideas. And if we just add stuff to that, we have a perfect session. We have a one session wonder. And usually when I say, well, if this is a full session, 60 minutes, let's say it's 60 minutes, what I usually see is people spend 10, 15 minutes pre-talking, then 20 minutes induction, then a couple of fast tools, and then wake up just like that, snap with none, and looking at the clock saying, well, you might need another session, or maybe 3, right? I would go, let's do everything, the hi, the hello, so why you're really here. Let's do something fun before we go there. 5 minutes, that's it. That leaves me with, let's say, 30, maybe 40 minutes of tools and really digging deep down and making sure we get everything there, finding all the resources. And then I have 10, 15 minutes of really repeating everything, echoing everything back, and wake them up with nothing less than they know when they wake up that they can change because they already did it. And they will leave my office like feeling like everything that pops up in front of me is a challenge, but it's a good challenge because I will gain from this. I love it. I can say yes, I can say no. And that's really the privilege of doing the kind of work that we do, is watching people do that, really change, right?
Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to emphasize again was in the beginning of your talk, you mentioned, how would you want to be when you leave here, rather than having the emphasis on what is your tale of woe?
Yeah, exactly. Because, going through, this might be an idea for everybody's watching right now. If you go look at your website, I'm pretty sure most of you have listed like numerous of bad things, like do you feel depressed? Do you feel overweight? All these negative, deep core issues that is just repeated. And the problem is the way our brains work is, if we see one of those that we actually trust that we do have as an issue, we will start linking that with all the others. So we come with one problem and we leave with 10, right? And that's a problem. So I would rather go, instead of having all those issues, because people know who to look for if they do have a problem. They don't need, so do you understand my problem? Because we don't really, but we do understand how to work with it. I would rather go, so do you really want to change right now? Because then come visit me, right? Do you want to feel even better than you believe you can do? Then come visit me. Do you want to, find those resources that you do have, but you haven't found yet? Come visit me. I want that on my website, because that brings me even better clients. I would say it brings even more professional clients, because they do have an urge to change fast, instead of people excusing the change by saying another excuse and then another excuse. And, well, I tried these 10 others, now it's your turn, but it might not work, right? I don't want those clients. I want those who actually say, well, today's the day. I want to do it. Show me how. That's the professional clients I want.
Sounds good. All right, Martin, we've only got about 2 minutes left. Could you please give us a link where people can contact you and find out about your therapy, about the courses you teach and everything like that?
Of course I can. And actually, what I want to do, I want to put something on top of that, because I would say this idea of knowing body language, the script killing hypnosis, stuff like that. I've recorded all my Vegas sessions from Hypnothoughts the past few years, and I put everything in a package, and that's more than 6 hours of video. And if anyone watching right now want a free copy of that, they can get it. So I'm just going to put right here in this chat box a couple of links. It would be a link to my Facebook. If you don't get the other link, go look for Martin Castor Peterson on Facebook, and I will send you the link. Or go to my website. But there's a full link of how to get this package. And anybody who want to hook up afterwards, ask a couple of questions, please do. I will be on Facebook the next half an hour. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, Martin, thanks a lot. It's been really good seeing you again, and I'll see you in Vegas, right?
Definitely. We'll see you there in August.
Okay, take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.